So let's talk about the dream of automated crypto profits. The idea that you can have algorithms just working for you 24/7, making you money while you sleep. It sounds incredible, right? But is this really the future of finance, or is it a disaster just waiting to happen? Well, that's what we're going to dig into.
And, this right here, this is the kind of thing that just fuels that crypto dream. A user on Reddit, Bell's Rec, is basically saying, hey, this DeFi saver tool is the reason I went all in on ETH. I mean, think about that. They're saying they didn't believe an automated tool could actually beat their own strategy, but it did. And that is exactly why these platforms are so powerful and, let's be honest, incredibly tempting.
All right, so here's a quick look at where we're headed. We'll start with the promise of these auto profits, then get into how they're built with what people call money Legos. We'll look at a couple of different strategies, see how they held up during a massive crash, expose some of the hidden costs and risks, and then wrap up by figuring out the right way to think about these things. Let's get started.
Okay, first up, the promise of auto profits.
The big idea here is basically set it and forget it. I mean, let's face it, crypto markets are wild and they never sleep. You can't be glued to the charts 24/7. So these tools promise to automate the hard stuff for you. For instance, if your assets are going up in value, they can automatically borrow more stablecoins for you, those tokens pegged to the dollar, to leverage your position. And if things go south and prices drop, they can automatically sell off a bit of your collateral to pay down your debt. The whole point is to protect you from getting liquidated, which is when the protocol just takes your assets. It's kind of like having your own personal, tireless crypto robot on the job.
All right, section 2, building with money Legos. Okay, so to really get how this stuff works, you have to understand this one core idea. DeFi is all about stacking money Legos. Seriously, it's the best way to think about it. Each protocol, is like its own special Lego brick. One brick might be for lending, another for swapping tokens, a third for creating stablecoins. But the real magic, the innovation, happens when you start clicking these bricks together to build something completely new.
Take the Maker protocol, for example. It's a perfect example of one of these base layer Lego bricks. What it does is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. You can lock up your crypto, like ETH, and in return, you get to create, or mint, the stablecoin DAI. This is one of the absolute foundational pieces that so much of the DeFi world is built on. So, where do tools like DeFi Saver and Incidap fit into this picture? Well, they're not trying to be a new kind of Lego brick. Instead, they're like the instruction manuals or the special tools that help you build bigger, cooler things with the bricks you already have. They sit on top of protocols like Maker and add a smart layer. They're the ones that give you those automated boost and repay functions. They basically let you build more complex, automated strategies with your existing money Legos. So let's get practical. Section 3, dialing in your strategy. Okay, so this is where your personal risk tolerance really comes into play. Let's look at two different approaches. On the left, you've got a super aggressive strategy. This person has set their automation to boost, basically to leverage up, as soon as their collateralization ratio hits 175%. And they've set it to repay or deleverage if it drops to just 170%. That is a razor-thin margin. It means the tool is going to be firing off transactions constantly. Now, compare that to the conservative strategy on the right. They're boosting at 240% and repaying at 220%. That's a much wider and safer window. It means fewer transactions, less risk, but probably less potential reward too. All right, next up, surviving Black Thursday. So you've got these awesome tools, you've dialed in your strategy, everything's looking good. But then the ultimate stress test hits, a real-world catastrophe that showed just how fragile this whole automated dream could be. Man, this quote from a deep dive analysis on Reddit is just chilling. This person ran the numbers, they ran simulations, and their conclusion was that there was literally no automation setting that could have survived the Black Thursday crash in March 2020 and actually made a profit. None. The whole system just broke. It completely fell apart under the pressure. So the big question is, what the heck happened? It wasn't just one thing. It was a total cascade of failures. First, the price of Ether just falls off a cliff. So naturally, everyone tries to get out at once, which completely jams up the Ethereum network. Total gridlock. This makes transaction fees, gas fees, go through the roof. At the same time, the price oracles, which are these services that tell the smart contracts what the real-world price of ETH is, they couldn't keep up with the chaos. They were lagging behind. So what happens? All those automated bots that were supposed to save you from liquidation, they failed. They couldn't get their transactions processed in time. And in the middle of all this mayhem, some attackers figured out they could win liquidation auctions with zero bids. They were literally getting people's collateral for free. It was a complete and total system meltdown. Okay, so Black Thursday was obviously the absolute worst case scenario. But the thing is, even on a totally normal day, there are hidden costs and risks you really need to understand. Let's get into those now in our next section, the hidden costs and risks. Let's talk about gas fees for a minute, because they are a huge hidden cost. Just look at this table. Remember that aggressive strategy we talked about, the one with the really tight 17 to 175% window? Well, in this simulation, it triggered 120 separate transactions. Now, at a gas price of 50 gwei, which isn't even that high, by the way, that adds up to 12 ETH. 12? Just in fees. If you're not a whale, a cost like that could wipe out any and all of your profits. It's a really important thing to remember. These systems and their costs can really favor the big players. And then you have the really nasty stuff, the outright malicious attacks. And one of the most famous, or maybe infamous, is the flash loan attack. This is one of those things in DeFi that sounds like science fiction. It lets someone borrow a massive amount of crypto. We're talking millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars, with zero collateral. The only catch is they have to pay it all back in the very same transaction. It's like a financial superpower, and it can be used to cause some serious, serious damage. So, how does a crazy thing like that even work? Well, it's a multi-step process that happens in a flash. Step 1, the attacker takes out one of these massive flash loans. Step 2, they use all that money to manipulate the market, say by dumping a huge amount of one token on an exchange to tank its price. Step 3, they quickly hop over to another protocol that relies on that price and exploit it, maybe by buying up assets at the fake crashed price. And then, Step 4, they repay the original loan. The whole thing happens in an instant, and the attacker just pockets the millions they made in between. It's a perfect example of how those same money Legos that are so great for building can also be used as weapons. Okay, so let's pull all of this together. We've seen the incredible promise, we've looked under the hood at the money Lego architecture, and we've seen the absolutely catastrophic risks. So how should we think about these platforms? The most important takeaway is this: it's a tool, not magic. You know, a really useful way to evaluate any kind of project, not just in crypto, is with a good old-fashioned SWOT analysis. It's a super simple but really powerful way to think critically. You just break things down into 4 categories: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a great way to cut through the hype and get a really clear picture of what you're dealing with. So if we apply that SWOT framework to DeFi automation, it really crystallizes everything. The strengths? For sure, it's capital efficiency and having that automated risk management. The weaknesses, though, are huge: potential for smart contract bugs, and, as we saw with Black Thursday, a massive vulnerability to network congestion. What about opportunities? Well, there's always the chance to integrate new protocols and come up with even smarter strategies. But the threats? Those are always lurking. We're talking about market nukes like Black Thursday, flash loan attacks, and people messing with the price oracles. And that really just leaves us with one final big question. The whole promise of DeFi, right, is this trustless system where code is supposed to be law. But after everything we've seen, you still have to trust that the code doesn't have a bug. You have to trust that the network won't get clogged. You have to trust that the price oracles are giving you the right data. And you have to trust that the whole economic model won't just shatter under extreme pressure. So it makes you wonder, in a system built on being trustless, where do you actually decide to place your trust?